What's good? That's the camera. Um, Here in New York, welcome to my office. It is our bedroom. It's gonna take a couple weeks for the things to arrive from the movers. So, as I'm getting used to making YouTube a little bit more intentional, I figure I should kind of maybe give some insight and maybe some day in the life kind of stuff. So what I'm doing right now is I'm charting out these 10 songs for a record that I'm going to be playing on. There we go. A record I'm going to be playing on in Ridgewood in maybe 2 or 3 days' time. So I've already got 7 of the songs charted. It's a folky, country, indie artist. His name is Jeremy James Meyer. Let's get a little bit closer to the light here for y'all. Look at that production value. His name is Jeremy James Meyer, and I played with him before. I did some electric bass on his first record, guitar and lap steel on his second record. But for this record, I think mainly just guitar. The only guitars I have with me are my 335. Maybe we can get some window light on this bad boy. My 335, and then I've got the Jaguar I got when I was 17 and a Dan Electro. But I've really been connecting with this guy. I don't know, it feels right. So I think I'm maybe gonna mainly use that. But I'm gonna just turn on the next song here. This is maybe boring stuff, I don't know, but and just kind of show you the process of how it works. Now, this next song is called Accordion, so you can expect some type of specific instrumentation here, I would imagine. All right, so got my pen, got my paper. My process in the very beginning is always to do a very quick charting. Now, that means that sometimes it might be a little bit sloppy, as you can see. But my main goal is to have something that I can turn into a much more pretty, readable chart later. I mainly make records with my friends. And all of us, for the most part, are self-taught amateurs. I shouldn't say amateurs, I guess, but what I mean is more that there's no industry aspirations within these groups. What's important is the art, what's important is the community around the art. And it's not that that can't exist on an industry level, but I would say the big difference between the records I've been a part of and records that I've sometimes been a part of or have seen is that there's all sorts of differing levels of literacy when it comes to music. Sometimes people have no theory, sometimes people know the Nashville number system, whatever it is. I find it's really useful to come in with charts, one, because it's part of my process of internalizing the music, writing it out and really quickly, and then writing it out a little bit more prettily. Doing that process twice helps give me kind of a visual idea of the scope of the song. And what I'm doing while I'm writing it out is also kind of looking for patterns. If I notice that the same 4 bars repeats every verse, then that's going to be something that I'll write out in the chart as same, or verse 2 same as verse 1, whatever it is. But it's also a way of shortening the chart information. If I discover, hey, there's 16 measures in this verse, but it's, let's say, the first 4 and the next 4 are the same, and then there's 2 measures that are slightly off, and then it returns to the other form, whatever it is. This is a way of kind of consolidating the chart and making it less noisy, less visually noisy. Anyways, let's listen to Accordion. Let's see what's going on here.
two.
Such a beautiful instrument. I know the accordion and the banjo may irk some people, but I just love the tonality of it. So first thing I'm doing when I'm listening to something like this is I'm trying to sing the bass note either in my head or out loud. So from that one I'm hearing and that helps me find the rest of the chord on the guitar. I can hear that these chords are probably major. Maybe there's a little bit of sus going on there. Let me play it again and kind of sing those root notes with it.
Two.
So I'm gonna try to sing those notes and find them on the guitar. Bam. One whole step off. Turns out that second chord there is minor. So if I follow those bass notes, when I sing, I can hear that it's a higher note. Get down there. So we got C, D, and F. Makes me guess it's probably in the key of C. Which in the key of C, R2 is minor. So we probably got C major, D minor, and F. Now, right here, I have the name, accordion. At the top here, I'm gonna put 4/4 in C, because that's how we're counting those chords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what that turns into is 2 measures of C, since I counted to 4 twice, 1 measure of D minor, and then 1 measure of F. I'm gonna put a ×2 and then write intro. Told you this stuff is gonna be dry, y'all. So that's what I got there. So I'm gonna play here and kind of see how the form changes or doesn't change.
Fill me up with rabbit glue, I'm glue to you. You stretch me
twice.
out like a horizon into the blue.
Third time.
Up through crocuses in your front yard.
Fourth time.
Coming through this old accordion.
Now he stops singing there, so that signals to me that's a different part. Thank God this doesn't have jazz chords. Even if it's a really simple tune, I still think there is a lot of utility in charting it out. Again, it gives you a visual in your head. And I actually get really excited by repetitive chord progressions for a couple of reasons. Number one, most of the time, if a song is incredible, I gotta remember to look at the little camera. Most of the time, if a song is incredible and it's reaching me emotionally and it's groovy, most of the time, that means that hand in hand with that, it's also not super complicated. No, you can have exceptions to that. Eleanor Rigby has some really cool progressions. I mean, all of the greatest jazz tunes obviously can have more intense chord progressions, though not all, right? All blues, for example, or even Kind of Blue, right? But one is just, I think that when there is a more restricted playground, you can let go a little bit more, and it gives you a lot more room to experiment, not just with what notes you're using, but where you place them, the sound design of those notes, you know, switching between different effects or ways of using your hand. That's a big thing with simpler chord progressions. Number two is just the obvious fact that you don't have to put more work into memorizing it, right? That energy can go towards those other types of choices. So those are the big things for me, why I get excited about simple chord progressions. One, it means I can put energy towards the things that make a song special, which is how do the parts sound and where do the parts go. And then two, just I think it is for the listener a easier experience of getting acclimated to the song when you don't have a lot of chords there. So I've got the intro and I've got the verse. They're the same thing. One sec, I got something downstairs. Package. All right. Where was I? Oh, let me get my chart. We happened to move to New York during the hottest week I think it's ever had. Which I'm reminded of every time I walk out the front door. Okay, so yeah, we have the intro, we have the verse. I'm gonna write break, because I suspect we're about to have 4 to 8 measures of just an instrumental. Let's rewind a bit. Now that could be the same chord, but just arranged differently. But let me hear that. Let me hear that chord again. Let's see if we can find the voicing on the guitar. Yeah. So what I'm doing there is I'm trying to hear the note that is different from what I'm used to hearing there, which is that movement that goes ooh. You can hear at the top, there's that note is kind of staying the whole time. But underneath that droning note, there's that movement. So what I'm hearing that as is an F sus, which is kind of difficult to play actually. Maybe like this. So in the break here, I'm going to put F sus, and that's an F sus 4. I'll do more theory videos later, but F sus 4 means we are taking the third, which is the most important note in the chord. It tells us if it's major or minor. We're suspending that note either up or down. If we're going up from 3 to 4, we're suspending it F sus 4. If we're taking that note and suspending it down from 3 to 2, that's an F sus 2. So I'm going to put F sus 4 there. And then we'll put a times 2. Here's a great example. I just kind of wrote it twice on accident. I'll just cross out that bottom one so that when I rewrite it, I can make a cleaner chart by doing that. Now, we're already 15 minutes in here. I'm going to pause, listen to the rest of the song, see if there's really anything else that changes here, and then I'll regroup in one moment. All right. So for the rest of the song, love droney tunes like this. One of the reasons I'm so excited about New York is that I am big into kind of the 70s loft scene, I think late 80s, early 90s kind of downtown scene, like John Zorn and all that. My favorite rapper, Billy Woods, lives here. My favorite guitarist, Nels Cline, lives kind of up near Oneonta, so not far from here. There's just a lot of musical history out here, and Lamont Young, his music obviously deals a lot with drones and repetition. Velvet Underground too. There's a big history of that in this city. Philip Glass, Steve Reich, these kind of guys. But this tune has that, where even though he's playing 3 chords, there's a lot of notes that are held and suspended over the other chords. So I'm really excited to kind of see how they're doing that, if we're keeping the accordion in the song. I hope we are. It's called accordion. But the rest of the song kind of progresses the same way. At the end, there are 8 measures of just an F kind of held out. So really excited for this one. There's a lot of opportunity for production when you have something like this, where you can make really big sounds that take up a lot of space because you don't have to worry about the listener's ear changing a bunch. And for me, the experience of a longer song, this is about 3.5 minutes, so I guess technically it qualifies as a pop song. But the experience of having something like that with really cool production, and it going on for that length of time, as a listener, that really transports me. All right, so I got 2 songs left. But I think that's where I'll leave you guys today. So, yeah, I'm excited to kind of rebuild the studio. And like I said, it made me to get more intentional with these. Where's the camera? There it is. With these videos. So, I think the focus, I'm going to be experimenting, kind of playing around, seeing what it is that I can offer that's helpful, that people like and respond to. But I think the focus is going to be a little different than other YouTube channels. While I am a guitar player, and while I have worked on sessions, and while I, make 1 to 3 records a year, either with myself or with other people, and I've toured and nationally, internationally, all this stuff. I've never, like I mentioned earlier, I've never been part of the industry. I think if you're in the right pocket, that can be really cool. But most of us guitar players don't end up in the industry. I think, a smaller number of that play live. I think what I really want to focus on is the total picture of musicianship, with a focus on guitar as a vocation of artistry, with a focus on using things like music theory, sessions, fitting into other people's music, writing your own music, all these things that kind of, I want to be able to transform the guitar from something that might potentially be frustrating or intimidating and into something that is exciting and creative. Doesn't mean you'll get rid of those plateaus. I certainly have not and will never. But there is a way to cultivate a relationship with this instrument as something that can renew you, something that can excite you, and get out of the mindset of restricting yourself to only what's come before, or even restricting yourself to thinking that it has to be something no one's ever heard. There's a lot of mental traps with this instrument, and the mental journey and the near spiritual journey that guitar and music can give you is what interests me most. So I'll kind of mess around with some of those concepts. I got a list of videos that I want to do here, but if you've watched this whole thing, thank you so much. My name is Michael. I'm on day 4 in New York, and there'll be more coming. Thank you so much.